This is question number 35 from the June 2021 Algebra Regents. I believe this is a 4-point problem. Yep, it's a 4-point problem. So there are a variety of ways to approach this question, and the way I would recommend is actually just doing it by hand and using the calculator to graph your inequality, but you're not going to graph your inequality on the calculator. You're just going to graph the equation of the inequality on the calculator. And then you're just going to need to know that when you're graphing an inequality, you have to shade above or below, use a solid line, use a dashed line. So before we even go into graphing, we're actually going to just try to figure out some big things with our inequalities. So if you look, I've got two inequalities, and this question says, graph the system of inequalities on the set of axes below. So you're in Algebra 1. You can only graph an inequality that's in the form y and then an mx plus b. And it can be less than or equal, greater than or equal, less than or greater than. So it has to be one of those, and then an mx plus b. If I look at my inequalities, I have y less than or equal to negative 3/4 x plus 5. It's already in mx plus b form. So I can actually just go ahead and graph this inequality by hand. So I'm actually going to rewrite this inequality to the left and write y less than or equal to negative 3/4 x plus 5. And once we do this problem, we're actually going to ask ourselves 3 questions. And the 3 questions are, is it going to be a solid line or a dashed line? Am I going to shade above or below? What's my slope? And what's my y-intercept? So I'm actually going to ask myself 4 questions, so I already lied a little. If I look, I know that if it's mx plus b, the m represents my slope, and the b represents my y-intercept, or my start point. So if I look at this, I can say my slope is negative 3/4 because it's the number attached to my x. So negative 3 is my rise, 4 is my run. My y-intercept is 5. So I'm going to start at positive 5. And if I look, I have less than or equal to. The minute you see that underline under my inequality symbol, that means I'm going to have a solid line. So this is a solid line. So I'm going to do solid. And since it's less than or equal to, I'm going to be shading below. So that's the first one we're actually going to graph. So we start our y-intercept of 0, 5. So I go up 0 to 5. So 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I plot a point right there. And now I'm going to go down 3, right 4, because it's a negative slope. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and plot a point right here. I'm going to go down another 3, right 4, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot a point right there. And if you look, I'm going to run out of room if I go down 3 and right 4, so I'm going to stop. So now I go back to my y-intercept, and I go up 3, left 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot a point. And good. Now, here's what I said when I said you're going to use your calculator. So if I wanted to make sure that my points are plotted correctly, I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in negative alpha y equal, enter, 3/4 x plus 5. I'm now going to hit graph. And if you look, it sort of actually looks like my line a bit. But now I'm going to hit second graph. And I'm going to look at my points. At 0, I get 5. At 4, I get 2. And that's exactly what I wanted. So I go out 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. So my line looks perfect. Now again, I said it's going to be a solid line. So we're going to draw a solid line going through these points. And that's our line. Now what we're going to do is we're going to shade below. So I'm going to take out my highlighter and I'm going to start shading below this inequality. Sorry, this is a long video. There's just a lot going on in this problem, and I want to make sure you get as many points as possible. So you really need to make sure that your shading's perfect, because we don't want to see it go above the inequality line. If it goes above the inequality line, then you will actually lose a point. So you need to make sure it's nice and beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to look at my second inequality. And my second inequality is 3x minus 2y greater than 4. So if I look at this inequality, it's not in y mx plus b form. It is in x, y number form. So I want to get the y by itself. So I do not want to touch this just yet. So I have to ask myself, how do I get this 3x to the right-hand side of my inequality? Well, I subtract 3x from both sides. So I get negative 2y greater than negative 3x plus 4. The reason why is because 3x and 4 are not like terms, so I just go ahead and rewrite them. Now I divide everything by a negative 2. But remember, when you divide your inequality by a negative, you've got to flip it. So I'm going to have y less than 3 over 2 x minus 2. Because negative 3 divided by negative 2 is 3 over 2, and 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So now I really want to graph this. So now we're going to write a few facts about it. So if I look, my slope is 3 over 2, because the number attached to my x. My y-intercept is negative 2, because the number hanging out by itself. If I look at my inequality, it is a dashed line. So when I draw my line, I will not be connecting my points. Now, I look, it says less than, so I'm going to shade below. So now, let us plot our points. So my y-intercept is at negative 2, so I'm going to start at 0, negative 2, so I'm going to plot a point right there. And now I'm going to go up 3, right 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And now I'm going to go back to my y-intercepts and plot points down here. So I'm going to go down 3, left 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And now I'm going to connect my points. It's going to sort of look like Christmas on my paper. Ooh, but I said a dashed line, so make sure it is a dashed line. And if you look, my dashed line came out beautifully. So now I have to shade below this line. So I'm going to use my blue highlighter this time, and I'm going to shade below it. Didn't mean to erase. Good thing I'm on an iPad. Ooh, it should be a little thicker. That way it's done quicker. And boom. I'm just shading. And I'm going to keep on shading as long as it's below this green line. And if you wanted to, you could have graphed this also on your calculator, just like I did with the inequality before, but since I know I did it correctly, I'm not going to. And then one of the things that you have to do is you need to make sure that you label your solution set. So your solution set is basically where your highlights overlap. So if I look, there's no overlap, no overlap. This is just blank. No overlap. There's overlap in this region. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big gold letter S. And that must be included on your paper to get full points. If it's not, a point will be deducted. And you just need to go from there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, okay? Now, the final question, to get you your full 4 points. It says, is 6-3 a solution to the system of inequalities? So there's 2 ways to approach it. You can plug it into both inequalities, or you can just look at your graph. So if I go out to the point 6-3, I know that this is an x value and that's a y value. So I have an x value and a y value. So I'm going to go right 6, up 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So here's the point 6-3. So I would say 6-3 is not a solution because it is not in my solution set. It does not lie in the solution set of the system. So we would just say no. 6-3 does not lie in the solution set of the inequalities. If you wanted to, you could have plugged into both inequalities. I'm actually going to do that right now to just show you that it's not a long process. So basically, I have the 0.63. So I have my x value and I have a y value. So if I want to, I can just do this. I can say 3 less than or equal to negative 3 over 4 times 6 plus 5. If I type this into a calculator right here, I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to show you. It's not that bad. So I'm going to do negative, got to go back here, second mode, alpha y equal, enter, negative 3 over 4 times 6 plus 5. I'm going to hit enter. And I get 3 less than or equal to 0.5, which is false. So if it's not a solution to that inequality, it can't be a solution to both of them. I mean, it is a solution to one of them, but since it's not a solution to that one, it has to be a solution to both of them. So that's another reason why it's not a solution to the system of inequalities, because it's not a solution to my first one. And that's how you get your points for question number 35.